Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And I want to start off by apologizing. It's been a while since I've posted a video. Work has been very busy, but I'm back now. And today I wanted to talk about something that is and has always been hotly debated. Recently, Montoya, another creator in the Star Citizen community, posted a video about PVE versus PvP servers. And essentially, this post here kind of outlines this player is interested in CIG adding a PvE server to avoid the murder hobos. This is essentially the post that Montoya went over in his video. I will link Montoya's video in the video description below if you guys want to check it out for yourself. It is an interesting video, but in his video, he leaned more on the side with agreeing with the Redditor that CIG should add PvE servers. Now, I want to kind of go over some of the arguments for PvE servers and against, and some of the ideas that members of the community has posted about this situation. And I want to throw my own ideas into the ring. And of course, I am always excited to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. So let's get started into this video. First of all, this person essentially is saying they may be saying goodbye to Star Citizen. They've supported CIG with their wallet for years, and they are a developer themselves. And they understand how ambitious this project is and the goals that CIG has set out about this game. And I want to say one thing, that because Star Citizen has been a game that's been in development for such a long time, that there have been conflicting ideas about what this game is supposed to be. Okay, there have been language in the past that goes all the way back to the Kickstarter that essentially says that this is not an MMO. There's also language from developers that's saying that explicitly this is an MMO. CIG has said in the past that they will not be crafting, there will now be crafting. It's just the developers are making the game as they go, and they're creating tools, features, gameplay sets, and designing the fun as the game unfolds. So it is very important to keep in mind that what we're playing right now is not the finished experience. It's not even close. It's not the gameplay flow that CIG wants the end product to be, and it does not have all the tech online to facilitate the types of gameplay that a lot of players want. A good example of that is Bounty Hunter V2, where players might have more technology at their disposal to correct griefers themselves. But again, these systems need to come online for the player base to be able to see them. So again, I just want to keep in mind that the game is an alpha right now. Okay. That said, this individual finds himself stepping away, and this is not uncommon. Maybe it's burnout after the years, maybe it's evolving mechanics that feel more tedious than rewarding. Once loved the freedom, exploring, unwinding after a long day, immersed in a limitless universe. Now the game seems to be heading in a direction that demands more patience than I have to give. This is essentially the Redditor's own words. Um, and I think that is at the real crux of this whole discussion. It is not strictly griefers, in my personal opinion. Again, I can only speak from my own personal opinion, my own personal experience with the game. I really don't see griefers as a major problem with the game. And again, this is just my opinion. You could completely disagree with me in the comments down below, but I think griefers are annoying, right? But what is most frustrating is that you know when you die, you have to go back and you have to do everything that you just did to set up all over again, right? If you woke up in your habs, you got loaded up, you got on the train, you went to your hangar, you called your ship, you put everything in your ship, you flew out to the location, you got a mission, then once you get to wherever the location for the mission is, uh, somebody randomly shows up and kills you. Now, this is not just strictly an issue that can happen with griefing, right? Because with the bugs in the game, you could show up at this location and fall to the planet. You could show up at this location and maybe the AI is really good that day and you get one shot. It's not just griefers that would kill you in that situation and, essentially waste all that time. It's the workflow of the game, right? Whether it's a griefer, whether it's an NPC at the location, whether it's a bug, the primary issue is the game has very long setup times and it has a lot of situations that can essentially make all that time wasted, right? So I think uh, kind of the problem that this player and a lot of other players are outlining is that you go out, you want to play the game, especially now that a lot of us are much older who are playing Star Citizen. Let's say you have 30 minutes to play the game. I won't even say that you have 2 hours to play the game. You get on the computer, you start setting up, and a griefer kills you, right? This is a major bummer. You gotta get start over. Maybe, your wife is calling you from the other room. She wants you to help you with something. She's assuming that you were playing for 30 minutes, that you got something done. But in reality, you didn't do anything. You wasted your time, right? So that isn't just a in-game issue. It's a real life issue. So you have the wasted time in the game, and then you have the real world limitations of the player base because the player base is much older and they have limited time to play the game. So these two problems compound to where we have this situation where the player base is kind of questioning some of the things, some of the gameplay decisions that CIG has made for the game. Now, I do think that these things can be remedied once specific technology comes online. Again, like I was saying with bounty hunting for griefers, when you're not falling through planets, right? When the AI's difficulty is more consistent, right? Let's say that right now AI's whether AI is good or bad depends on the server. But in reality, an AI skill level might depend on the mission you take, right? An easy mission, the NPCs might be standing around like, they don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of like random hired guns. They barely know how to change a magazine. So it's fairly easy to handle them. But then you have like a 5-star mission, a mission that's very difficult, high reputation. The NPCs are like laser focused, they're locked in, they're ready to go, very hard to kill. That difference in skill level with the AI, that's not something that's in the game right now. Right now, CIG is just trying to get the AI to respond on the servers in a good state. So right now, how good the AI just depends on the servers. In the future, I don't think it's designed to be like that. The AI is supposed to be more difficult the more difficult missions you have, right? And again, as time goes on, as CIG builds out these systems, it's going to be, you're going to have more options for different things, right? Like gameplay that is actually at landing zones, right? So it's not always going to be about getting in your spaceship and spending 15 minutes in quantum to get into the action. If you want to get into action very fast, there might be some missions that you could take with your org or your team or your buddy or even do solo at the landing zone itself. So there are a lot of different things that CIG are already planning to do to make that workflow a little bit different. But I want to look at some of the other things that people are saying they want CIG to do. So let's take a look at some more posts here. Okay, so there's been a few arguments that PVE servers aren't needed. Okay, lacking actual examples. There's no risk and reward system that makes sense here. Let's pretend the rewards are 10 times that of a regular PvE server that's not going to draw in someone who wants to avoid all PvP. That only appeals to other PvP players. This seems to be a gross oversight. And, you know, I think this player is saying here strictly that people who are suggesting, you know, there be only PvP servers are, you know, underestimating what the community wants, right? And I think that if you wind everything down, right, everything that we just talked about, I understand where a lot of people are coming from with wanting PvE servers, but in my opinion, that's not, you know, what a lot of people got into this game for, right? And that's, in my opinion, it really isn't going to be that necessary, right? People are very concerned about griefers, and again, the system where different star systems have, you know, different security levels, the system where NPCs show up to help you if you're being attacked. CIG has already talked about a lot of these things that they want to do that are going to come online for 1.0, and you know, I just kind of feel like, you know, again, this is just in my own personal experience, but I don't think griefers are that big of an issue. The game is very big. If you're being smart, if you're going to different locations, again, CIG says essentially a single planet is going to have like 3,000 points of interest, right? So if you get a mission that sends you to a place, there's not going to be 3,000 people on the server, right? When 1.0 comes out, probably be 1,000 people servers. If one planet has that many locations, you're probably not even going to come across another player to be griefed. Like, how are they going to know where you are? You take that mission, it goes away. So I don't know. I think that, again, it's a mentality where people are fixated on the current state of the game, and you just can't have that mindset because the current state of the game is not how the game is going to be like. I'm an old player here, right? I remember the days where the inventory was in the mobiGlass. The game that we're playing now is so completely different than that game that it's, you know, it's not even remotely comparable. So when the finished game comes out, it's going to be very different than it is now. It just, I mean, just between patches, before the cargo patch to what we have now with physicalized cargo and stuff everywhere, the game is changing a lot. So uh, I think that's something that more of these people need to keep in mind when they're, you know, voicing their concerns about what the game is going to look like. Let's look at another one. Okay. Well, discussion of PvE servers and reputation damage. I'll throw some ideas for it. So this person wants to put some ideas out here. Let's see what they are talking about. Okay, so this person's talking about a PvP slider. Okay, it could be like what exists in GTA Online, pacifist button, or hide me from other players in a session, or maybe not a slider but reputation damage for griefers who don't care about reputation. The slider can be based on scales of damage against player ships and characters. You take 100% damage, deal 100% damage, so PvP encounters you face are normal, moderate. I think that some of these ideas are kind of interesting, but again, it's one of those things that I just don't think are going to be necessary, right? Because they are, uh, like this suggestion is kind of just based on the current state of the game, and there are going to be a lot of systems in place from now till 1.0. Again, just thinking about the full reputation system's not in the game. Bounty Hunter V2 is not, fully in the game. The law system, even in Stanton, is going to get updated when you have different factions that you have to choose from. Guilds are not in the game yet. Of course, you have to choose a guild, be it pirate or legitimate guild. I think that it's kind of one of the situations where, as a player base, we just have to kind of wait and see what happens with these systems. And of course, always give your feedback. That's super important. As CIG are rolling out a lot of these new features, giving your feedback is going to help them find the fun, okay? Because that's the end goal here, is for Star Citizen not just be immersive and realistic and big and all this stuff, but also be fun. So as the systems are rolling out, that's the best time for us to give our feedback, to say, maybe bounty hunting needs to be looked at. And one good suggestion that I have seen a lot of people make is that more players want CIG to give details about upcoming systems before implementing it, right? Because this is one of the other big issues with when CIG rolls out a feature, is that they won't tell us exactly how that thing will work. So when it comes out, if it's bad, we just have to live with the pain of this feature until, the player base complains and CIG pulls it out. Like the landing splines or the item banks, right? CIG could have just told the player base that, item banks and the screens would work like this, where you know, icons would be big and all this weird stuff would be going on. Um, and just give us ability to give feedback on what it's supposed to be like, so they can say, oh, okay, well, maybe the player base doesn't really like this. Maybe they want a paper doll, XYZ. That is kind of the best time to get feedback from the player base. So you're not redoing work, because I know there were a bunch of devs that worked on item banks and all that work just got thrown in the bin. And if they just polled the player base, asked them what they wanted to see in the game, it would have saved them a bunch of time. So I think one of the things that CIG could do better is informing the player base what their plans are for certain systems to get their feedback, even if it's Evocati, right? Maybe you don't want the whole player base to know what you're working on. Ask Evocati, they're under an NDA. So ask them, hey, does this system and this feature sound fun to you? Simple stuff like that could kind of help the devs gauge what the player base wants to see out of the systems that they're working on. So let's look at one more, and then I want to give my suggestions for what CIG could do about the situation. Okay, last one is temporary PVE server only. In light of many posts complaining about murder hobos, what do people think about a temporary PvP disabled server similar to the 3X branch that coexisted for a short period when 4.0 just rolled out? So this person is essentially saying that, what if CIG releases a different branch of the live server, kind of like when 4.0 coexisted with 3.x or whatever, right? And again, it's basically the same premise, where you have a server that's essentially divergent from the main aspect of the game, where some people were saying that, hey, it's a PvP server, so maybe there's better gear, better loot. Maybe you make more money doing things on the PvP server, but the PvE server wouldn't have PvP, essentially. So the PvP server would be harder, but would have more rewards. And the PVE server would be easier and have less rewards. But I mean, that's kind of basically the idea behind having Stanton and Pyro, right? Stanton's supposed to be, a little bit easier with less rewards, and Pyro's supposed to be a little bit harder with more rewards. But again, that full, you know, balance isn't in the game yet. Again, I think this is really isn't necessary because again, it just divides the player base where people are playing on one server and other people are playing on the other. It's just kind of messy. I don't think CIG should do that. So here's kind of my idea on the situation. So going back to what I talked about a little bit earlier in the video, I see the real problem here with not really griefers or PvP, but the real issue is time sinks. And when I made my video about the transit system refactor, a lot of people in the comments thought that that video was going to be about how bad the trains are and that CIG should just let us spawn in wherever we want, hangars in the space station. I mean, people used to spawn in Port Alsa, and that was very easy. Now you can move your respawn point to a space station, but just letting player base say, hey, I want to start in the space station. I want to start in my hangar. I want to start in a hab. I want to start an outpost on the planet. CIG has said that they're changing the log inflow. So I believe that these things will be possible. Quality of life is going to be a big factor with the time sinks being less punishing for players. So if you do get griefed, it's not going to be a big deal. Like, you're not going to lose your subscriber gear because CIG is working on a system for you to get that back. And, you're going to be able to log in and out of wherever you want to. Again, I don't know exactly how the system is going to work, but it's not going to work like it is now, where it's as rigid as it is now. So once you keep those things in mind, you realize that, a player killing you is not as big a deal as you thought it would be. Now, this could be worsened with systems like Death of a Spaceman, but again, I think it's really critical here for CIG to just tell the player base what their plans are for Death of a Spaceman. Is it going to be a system where you only have 5 lives, or is it going to be a system where you have 5 lives, but you can buy more, right? I think if CIG just told us that straight up, we could give our feedback and they could save time developing the system. But what I think CIG could do in the interim that would be really good is expand Arena Commander. I'm a content creator, so I spend a lot of time in Arena Commander getting B-roll footage, testing ships, doing that stuff. It's a lot easier to do than going into the Persistent Universe because it's faster, right? And for a lot of people who just want quick gameplay, 30 minutes, an hour, or what have you, a lot of these players, a lot of PvE players, they play solo. So there's no real reason to jump into live, in my personal opinion, if you just want to experience your spaceships. So what CIG could do is expand Arena Commander to add non-combat modes. The only non-combat mode in Arena Commander right now is the racing and free flight, of course. But CIG could add cargo hauling, mining, and salvage to Arena Commander. And they could set it up in a way where when you play these modes, you're working towards your licenses. Now, again, I'm a very old player, so back in the day, Arena Commander was designed to be a sim pod. This sim pod would exist in the Persistent Universe, and you could use it to get your wingman's license, your license to fly, and it would be a place where you could do the tutorials. And this made sense back then, and I think it still makes sense now, right? Arena Commander has kind of evolved into its own game mode, its own game almost at this point. But if CIG kind of reconfigured some things and added more functionality, more gameplay styles, you could hop into Arena Commander, and by playing it, you earn different licenses. Now, I know not everyone might like this, but the way they design these licenses could also be reflected into the Persistent Universe. A good example of this is a Tier 1 license allows you to transport 1 SU boxes. Then when you go for your Tier 2 license, you can move 2 SU boxes. Then when you go to your tier 3 license, you can move 4, and so on, 8, 32, whatnot. You can still take missions that require you to move 64 SU of cargo, but you'll only get 1 SU boxes if you have your tier 1 license, because they don't really trust you with these larger, heavier boxes with more sensitive containment. So they're saying, okay, it's the same resource, but we want this person to be able to uh, do different things with the gameplay. Essentially, not, I wouldn't say leveling up, but you would see the work that you do in Arena Commander shown as tangible progression in the persistent universe by owning these different licenses. And similarly with salvage and mining, where you'll get maybe more diverse mining claims, right? Maybe when you have that tier 5 license, it'll be a more dangerous mining claim or more lucrative mining claim, a mining claim in an area of space that has a certain mineral that you're interested in. Same thing with salvage. Maybe you'll have easier access to various salvage yards. And of course, this would work in parallel with your reputation. So your licenses is not going to prevent you from choosing a guild or building reputation by doing a bunch of missions. Getting these licenses will just make it easier for you to complete these missions, right? And again, I'll give the example of the different size SU boxes where, uh, you have a mission that requires you to move 62 SU of cargo, but because you only have a tier 1 license, you only can get 1 SU boxes. So let's say you have good reputation, right? And you get a mission that requires you to move 100 SU of boxes. Now it really makes sense for you to go after that tier 5 license, because now you're getting missions that require you to move more cargo, and getting those bigger boxes would make that easier. And again, this is just an idea. This is not something I think CG should do, but by giving Arena Commander more of a tangible connection to the persistent universe, more people would play it, and it would, give players who don't want to deal with combat every time they boot up the game a place to go and things to do. Similarly, I think something that would also help Arena Commander is skill-based matchmaking. I saw another content creator talk about this. They actually created a Discord that allows them to get together with different players and rank them according to their skill level and match them up. I think this is a great idea and makes a lot of sense for Star Citizen. Arena Commander is really sweaty, right? People go in there, and the way the ranking system works is it's just based on kills, right? So people kind of just camp out in Arena Commander waiting for fresh blood to show up, and they just kill them. And this makes their kill count go up, and it makes it seem like they're this really great player, but you don't necessarily have to be an amazing player in Arena Commander to have a high kill count. You just have to, be lucky enough to get in a server with a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing. So with skill-based matchmaking, that would completely turn that on their head, because those players who are used to just killing people who are worse than them, they'll now be matched up with people who are as good as them, right? And this is more in line with traditional FPS games like Valorant and even Marvel Rivals, right? And you can do the same thing with the ship combat, where you get into a match and you essentially fight AI, and that gives you a tentative ranking, and it puts you in a specific tier, and then you go against people and you can go up or down in the rankings depending on how good you do. In my personal opinion, this will make Arena Command attractive for more than just Star Citizen players and backers, but it would make Star Citizen attractive for traditional gamers who kind of expect these types of mechanics in games so they know how good they are, and so that they can match up with people and feel like they're playing a game that's fair. It doesn't feel fun getting into a game where, everyone in the map is better than you, and you're getting killed 5-6 times a match, and you're just gonna close out of the game and go do something else. Realistically, I think that skill-based matchmaking in Arena Commander, that is, makes a lot of sense. So I think if CAG did a little bit with Arena Commander, it would make a lot of people happy. It would make the PvP people happy with skill-based matchmaking. It would make the PvE people happy by giving them, more to do than just combat. You can do mining, salvage, trading. And then maybe in the future, you could add in more tutorials in there for things like refueling, things like repair, things like medical. And instead of, cluttering up the main persistent universe, I know CIG wants to add in a main story to the game, but I think having a bunch of tutorials in a main story is just going to be very clunky, right? I think they should put that in Arena Commander. That's just my opinion. And again, giving your feedback to CIG is what matters here, right? This is the time when we should do these things and have these discussions. I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What do you think about all of this? I know this was a little bit of a longer video. I like to make these theory crafting videos kind of like a podcast, honestly. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I love talking to you guys. I appreciate all the comments. You guys have been showing the channel a lot of love lately. And I think 2025 is going to be an exciting year for Star Citizen. So with that being said, that's going to be it for me here in today's video, you guys. I want to say thanks for hanging out with me again. Like I always say at the end of these videos, you guys, like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'll see you guys in the next one. Salute.